The desert of Viralanine was endless. Its sand stretched for thousands of miles under a pale orange sky. Dust storms moved like slow beasts, growling with thunder as they rolled over the horizon. The air was hot and dry, carrying the taste of metal and old ruins. Ethan Cross had been driving his old repair rover for 5 hours straight, following a faint radio signal from one of the human mining outposts. He was a field engineer, the kind who could fix anything, from a broken drone to a shattered solar panel. Life on this planet was hard, lonely, and quiet. Most people came here for money or exile. Ethan came to forget. He had lost his crew 2 years ago during a reactor explosion on another world. Since then, he kept to himself. He liked machines because they didn't lie or betray. They just needed care and patience. The rover's radio cracked suddenly, breaking the silence. A voice came through, weak, distorted, almost a whisper. "Help. Anyone." "Please," Ethan frowned. He turned a few knobs, trying to clear the signal. It wasn't human. The accent was different, softer, melodic, with a strange rhythm. It repeated again, more desperate this time. "Shuttle down. Oxygen low. Please, someone." He checked the coordinates. The signal came from the west, the dead zone, where sandstorms never ended. No human outpost existed there. The logical thing would be to ignore it. But something about that voice struck deep in his chest. It wasn't a machine distress code. It was a living person begging not to die. "Damn it," Ethan muttered, and turned the rover's wheel. The vehicle groaned as it changed direction toward the storm. The further he drove, the worse the visibility became. Sand hit the windshield like bullets. The sensors beeped, warning of dangerous wind pressure. He wore his oxygen mask and tightened the straps of his survival jacket. The radio signal grew stronger the deeper he went. After an hour, he saw it, a faint blue light blinking through the storm. A small shuttle lay half buried in the dunes, its wings torn, engines smoking. He parked the rover nearby and ran through the storm. The heat burned his face through the mask. "Hello? Is anyone here?" he shouted. The ship's side hatch was jammed, covered in sand. He pulled out his plasma cutter and began slicing through the metal. Inside, alarms flashed red. The air smelled of smoke and burned circuits. Then he saw her. A young alien woman lay near the cockpit, barely conscious. Her body was covered in cuts and bruises, her breathing shallow. She had long silver hair tangled with sand, fox-like ears that twitched weakly, and a soft tail that lay still beside her. Her uniform was torn, showing strange glowing symbols that pulsed faintly on her skin, like bioluminescent veins. When Ethan approached, her golden eyes opened, sharp with fear. She tried to lift a small, glowing blade, but her arm trembled too much. "Stay away," she whispered weakly. "Human." "I'm not here to hurt you," Ethan said through his mask. "Your ship's about to collapse. Let me help." She didn't respond, but her arm fell limp. The ship gave a loud groan as metal twisted. There wasn't time. Ethan lifted her carefully, feeling how light she was, like carrying a child. Her furred ears brushed against his shoulder. The sandstorm roared louder. He carried her out just as the shuttle exploded behind them. The shock wave threw them both to the ground. Ethan shielded her body with his own until the storm of debris passed. When he looked back, the ship was gone, just burning wreckage buried in sand. The alien girl's eyes flickered open. "Why, did you?" she whispered. "Because you needed help," Ethan said simply. "Now stay still. You'll be fine." He carried her to the rover and gently laid her in the back seat. Her breathing was shallow, but she was alive. He started the engine and drove toward the shelter zone. The storm followed them, slamming against the windows. Inside, the lights flickered, and the girl drifted in and out of consciousness. Sometimes she mumbled words in her language. Sometimes she called out a name, Lyra. Ethan realized that must be her name. It took 3 hours to reach the outpost. By then, night had fallen. The desert was quiet again, cold and still. Ethan parked the rover beside his bunker and carried Lyra inside. His place was small, just 2 rooms, metal walls, and shelves filled with tools. He laid her on his cot and checked her vitals. Her pulse was weak. The oxygen levels were dropping. Her species must have had different air requirements. He remembered reading old reports about Valari, a fox-eared alien race known for intelligence and pride. They didn't trust humans much, not after the wars. Ethan set up the medical scanner and attached it to her wrist. The device beeped softly. "You've got internal damage," he murmured, "but nothing I can't fix." He worked for hours, replacing bandages, stabilizing her breathing, injecting a healing serum designed for mixed oxygen blood. His hands shook from exhaustion, but he didn't stop. He even adjusted the air filter in his bunker to match her oxygen level when he was done. He sat beside her bed, watching her chest rise and fall. The storm outside had quieted. He whispered to himself, "You're safe now, whoever you are." Morning came slowly. The light through the small window turned gold, falling across her face. Ethan was still asleep in the chair beside her when he heard movement. Lyra opened her eyes, blinking at the strange metal ceiling. Her body ached, but the air felt clean, easy to breathe. She turned her head and saw him, the human sitting nearby, asleep. His jacket covered in dust and his hands bandaged. She studied him silently. His face was tired but calm. She could sense no malice from him. The last thing she remembered was fire, pain, and his arms carrying her through death itself. She tried to sit up, but pain shot through her side. The movement woke Ethan. He quickly stood. "Hey, careful. You're still hurt." Her golden eyes narrowed. "Where am I?" "My outpost," he said. "You crashed in the western dunes. You were dying when I found you." Lyra looked at her hands, then the strange medical patch on her wrist. "You saved me." Ethan shrugged. "Guess so." For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she bowed her head. "Humans do not save Valari. They take, they fight, they destroy. Why did you help me?" "Because it was the right thing to do," Ethan replied simply. "That's all." She looked at him in silence. In her culture, debts were sacred. To save a life meant claiming a soul's loyalty. She had been taught this since birth. A Valari who failed to repay such a debt was considered dishonored forever. When she tried to speak, her throat trembled. "You don't understand what you've done," she whispered. "Among my kind, this means my life is now yours. My service, my body, my..." Ethan quickly raised his hand. "Stop. I don't own anyone." "You don't owe me anything." She blinked in confusion. "But rest," he said gently. "You need strength, not rules." Lyra stared at him for a long time. His words were strange, his tone even stranger. He spoke like no one she had ever met. She lay back, too tired to argue. Days passed. Lyra slowly regained her strength. She explored the small outpost, amazed by human machines. Ethan taught her how his tools worked. She was curious about everything: the sound of the generator, the way human coffee smelled, the rough feel of steel walls. Once, she asked softly, "Do all humans live alone like you?" Ethan smiled faintly. "No, I just prefer quiet." No. She tilted her head. "Are you exiled?" "Something like that." He didn't explain more. As the days turned into a week, a fragile peace formed between them. They shared small meals and sometimes silence. Lyra tried to help him repair the rover, though her hands were still weak. Her tail often swayed unconsciously while she worked, which made Ethan chuckle quietly. She caught him once. "Why do you laugh?" "Because you look determined. Like you're fixing the universe with that screwdriver." She looked at the tool in her hand, confused, then smiled for the first time. "Maybe I am." One evening, Ethan was checking the energy filters when he noticed her standing outside, staring at the stars. The twin moons of Vera Lenine glowed faintly in the sky. Her silver hair shone like water under the light. "You should be resting," he said from the doorway. Lyra didn't turn. "Do humans always look at the stars with sadness?" Paused. "Maybe. We came to space looking for hope, but all we found were wars and dust." She finally turned to face him. "You're different," he laughed softly. "I doubt it." She walked closer. "You risked your life for me. You gave me air, warmth, and food. My people would call that a bond beyond life. You say it means nothing, but I feel it. It's strange. Ethan looked away. You don't need to thank me. You just need to live. Lyra nodded slowly. But inside, something had already changed. She couldn't explain it. Not duty, not gratitude, something deeper. Later that night, a storm returned. The wind howled outside, shaking the walls. Ethan checked the outer sensors while Lyra sat quietly, holding a small energy crystal from her ship. Suddenly the alarm beeped. A signal appeared, unknown movement near the dunes. Ethan grabbed his scanner. That's not weather, he muttered. Looks like scavengers. Lyra's ears perked up. They came for me, she said softly. The raiders who attacked my ship. Ethan's eyes hardened. Then we're locking down the base. They worked fast, sealing the doors, dimming the lights. Outside, shapes moved through the sand, 3, maybe 4. Lyra watched him prepare calmly. Why do you fight for me again? She asked. Ethan smiled tiredly. Because I don't leave people behind. The storm raged all night. The raiders never broke through, but the tension stayed thick. By morning, the tracks in the sand were gone. When the danger passed, Lyra stood before him. Her voice. Ethan stepped outside his outpost, stretching his sore arms. The storm had passed, leaving the land still and clear. For the first time in days, the sky looked calm. Lyra was already awake. She stood near the rover, checking the sand filters and energy coils. Her silver hair moved softly in the desert breeze, and her fox ears twitched whenever the wind carried a sound. When she noticed Ethan, she straightened and spoke in her usual formal tone. You rest too little, human. He smiled faintly. You work too early, alien. Her golden eyes glowed slightly as she looked at him. My name is Lyra, she said softly. You should use it. Ethan nodded. All right, then you call me Ethan. From that small exchange, something gentle grew, a friendship made of quiet moments and simple words. She started helping him with daily work, learning how to use human tools and machines. At first she struggled. Her claws made it hard to handle small bolts, and she often broke things accidentally. Ethan never scolded her. He just smiled and said, we'll try again. Sometimes she watched him while he worked, the way his hands moved carefully, the way his eyes focused. Humans were strange to her, fragile bodies, yet so stubborn and strong. One evening, while Ethan repaired a broken drone, Lyra asked, why did you really save me that day? He looked up from his work. Because I didn't want another life lost. I've seen too many already. She tilted her head. You carry pain. Ethan didn't answer. He just kept working, the faint sound of metal tools filling the silence. Over the next few days, Lyra's health improved completely. Her tail moved freely again, and her energy returned. She began exploring outside the outpost. Collecting rare stones and scanning alien plants, she found joy in simple things, feeling rain for the first time after years of space travel, touching the cool surface of metal walls. Hearing the hum of human engines, when she returned one evening, Ethan noticed she was quiet. Something wrong? He asked. She hesitated before speaking. The raiders. They will come back. They want the data from my ship. It holds coordinates of hidden colonies. If they get it, my people will die. Ethan leaned back. Then we'll stop them before that happens. You would fight for me again? She asked in disbelief. He nodded. You're under my roof. That's enough reason. Her heart beat faster. In her world, loyalty was given through rules. But here, with this man, it was given freely, without expectation, without command. That night, she wrote ancient Valari words on the outpost wall using glowing sand. Bond of life beyond blood. Ethan didn't understand the language, but the light comforted him days later. The storm of danger returned. It began with a small signal on Ethan's radar, a ship entering orbit, unmarked. Then came a flicker of static through the radio. Voices, harsh, angry. Raiders. Found her, one voice said. The Fox girl's still alive. Prepare the capture squad. Lyra's ears went flat against her head. She turned to Ethan, fear in her eyes. They're coming. He loaded his old rifle, checked the power cells, and said calmly, then we'll be ready. placed a hand on his arm. They won't stop. You'll die if you fight them. I've died before, Ethan said quietly. This time, I'll make it count. She shook her head. No, I owe you my life. Let me protect you. But Ethan looked straight into her eyes. I didn't save you so you could throw your life away for me. Her voice trembled. Then why did you save me at all? He sighed softly. Because that's what humans do. We help even when it hurts. The words stayed with her long after he walked away to prepare as the sun set. The raider ship descended like a shadow over the dunes. Its engines howled, throwing up waves of sand. The outpost shook. Lights flickered. Ethan took position near the entrance, his pulse steady. Lyra stood beside him, holding a glowing orb in her palm, a piece of her lost technology. Her tail swayed slowly, her eyes glowing bright gold. When the raiders appeared, armored men with blasters, their leader shouted, "Hand over the Valari. The bounty belongs to us." Ethan stood firm. "She's not yours to take." They laughed. "You'd die for an alien?" Ethan didn't answer. He just aimed and fired the warning shot that began the battle. Blaster fire cut through the air. Sand exploded in every direction. Ethan ducked behind the rover, returning fire. Lyra raised her orb, and a transparent energy barrier shimmered around them. Deflecting shots, the strain was visible on her face. The shield pulsed and cracked under the pressure. "Too many," she gasped. Ethan shouted over the noise. "Hold on." A blast hit the wall, throwing them both to the ground. Ethan's shoulder burned, but he crawled to her. She was shaking, her light fading. "You can't keep this up," he said. Her eyes glowed fiercely. "I won't let them hurt you." Before he could stop her, she stood up and extended her arms. The orb exploded in white light, sending a shockwave across the desert. The raiders were thrown back, their ship engines failing. Silence followed, heavy and endless. Ethan ran to her. She collapsed into his arms, her body trembling. The glow on her skin faded like dying stars. "Why?" he whispered. "You could have let me handle it." She looked at him weakly, her eyes filled with tears. "Because my life belongs to you. You gave me hope when I had none. I had to protect that." He shook his head. "No, Lyra, you re-free. You don't belong to anyone." She smiled faintly. "Then let my choice be mine." Ethan's chest tightened. He held her close until her breathing steadied again. The battle left the outpost damaged, but alive. The raider's ship crashed far away, smoke rising from the dunes. Ethan repaired what he could, working through the night. When Lyra woke again, she found him sitting beside her bed, his shoulder wrapped in bandages. He looked tired but relieved. "You're awake," he said. "How do you feel?" "Weary," she whispered, "but alive." He smiled softly. "That's what matters." For a long moment, neither spoke. The silence between them was warm, filled with quiet understanding. Finally, Lyra said, "When you told me I was free, I didn't understand. In my world, freedom meant exile, being alone, but now I see. Freedom is choosing who you stand beside." Ethan nodded slowly. "Exactly." She looked at him with calm determination. "Then I choose to stand beside you, not as a servant, not as a debt, but as someone who believes in you." He didn't argue. He just smiled, a real human smile that reached his eyes. Weeks passed. The days on Virila 9 became peaceful again. Together, they rebuilt the outpost, planted small energy vines for food, and repaired the rover. Lyra became skilled with human tools, surprising even Ethan. Sometimes she hummed in her alien language while working. It reminded him that life could be beautiful even in the middle of nowhere. Every evening, they watched the sunset from the metal roof. The sky turned deep red before fading into violet. The desert wind carried the smell of dust and rain. Ethan often caught himself thinking about her, the way she smiled, the way her tail flicked when she was amused. He didn't say anything, but she could feel his thoughts. Her species was sensitive to emotion, and his heart was easy to read. One night, as they sat quietly, Lyra spoke. "You once said you came here to forget." Ethan nodded. "Yeah, I lost my crew on Titan 4. Reactor overload. I was the only one who made it out. I'm sorry, she whispered. He shrugged. Wasn't your fault? She looked up at the stars. Pain shapes all living things. But so does kindness. He smiled gently. You've been reading human philosophy again? Maybe, she said with a small laugh. Then, softly, she added, if you hadn't come that day, I would have died in the storm. I keep thinking about that moment, seconds before death, and then your hands pulled me out. I remember the warmth. Ethan's throat tightened. I'm just glad I was there. You were more than that, she said. You became my reason to live again. Time moved slowly on Varela 9. Months passed, marked by storms and repairs, by laughter and long talks. The bond between them grew, not of debt or duty, but of trust. Lyra built a small garden outside, using alien seeds from her ship. The plants glowed faintly at night, lighting the sand like stars fallen to the ground. Ethan loved to sit there with her, drinking bitter coffee while she explained the constellations of her homeworld. One evening, she placed a small crystal in his hand. This holds my memory, she said. If I ever fall again, it will tell you everything I was. Ethan closed his fingers around it. You're not going anywhere. She smiled softly. Neither are you. They stayed like that for a long while under the twin moons, the quiet hum of life around them. One night, a message came through the radio. A human patrol ship scanning for survivors. Ethan looked at Lyra. If I send the signal, they'll find us. You could go home. She looked away. Home, my people may still see me as lost. They do not forgive weakness. You're not weak, Ethan, said firmly. You're the strongest person I've ever met. Her eyes softened. Then let me stay here. I want to learn the human way, the way of choosing kindness even when the world burns. He nodded slowly. Then stay. And she did. Months later, travelers passing near the wasteland sometimes reported seeing lights, a small outpost glowing softly in the night. Some said a human and a fox-eared alien lived there, repairing machines and helping wanderers who lost their path. They said the alien always stood beside the human, her eyes bright with quiet pride. Inside that outpost, Ethan and Lyra built a new life. They worked, laughed, argued, and learned. The galaxy outside continued its wars and politics. But here on Varela 9, one human and one alien had found something.